everybody, and welcome one and all to SciFails, where we are going to examine yet another of these terrible videos found across the internet, whether they're a top 10 tier list, iceberg. Any of these little concepts are going to be picked apart and reviewed for their truth value and what kind of scientific value, education value that they're actually bringing to the table, because these are alleged, educational videos. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so this is Origins Explained. Channel that talks about, Origins Explained. They have 3.81 million subscribers. This video alone has 103K views. It was just released 2 months ago. Okay? And let's see how bad it is. Let's see if it is on a scale of, from bright side to feathered fiend. See where Katrina here ranks among the science misinformation. Let me know if anything sounds off on the audio or anything, but I am ready to dive into Origins Explained, the biggest enemies of the dinosaurs.
Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Number 10, Dinosuchus. A prehistoric creature called Dinosuchus ruled the world 75 million years ago. This mighty
Well, you say ruled the world. It was in North America. Yeah, that's not the world though. It lived in the world 75 million years ago, like 60, was it about 65 to, I want to say 65 to 85 million years ago. So the time frame is okay, but it didn't rule the world. It only lived in a select habitat.
creature was just as long as the T-Rex, but it was twice as heavy. And it was likely more intelligent, considering the T-Rex had a tiny brain.
And it did not at all stand up on its hind legs. I don't know what this is. I don't know why the T-Rex has 3 fingers either, or why it's standing like that, or why its tail is about 1/5 the size of what looks to be 1/5 the size of its body mass, when its tail needs to be proportionally a lot bulkier than that to counterbalance its the front portion of that giant head, which is not representative at all in this model. The head on the T-Rex is kind of tiny, but it's a cartoon, so I'm not going to be too hard on it. But I will be hard on them for making the Dinosuchus stand on its hind legs like a freaking during the Triassic, there were a group of terrestrial crocodiles that kind of did this. I'm trying to remember which one was the biggest. Giant terrestrial crocodile. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, the Rarasukins. I know that, but which species was the biggest? Because that's the only thing this could be. This can't even be a Dinosuchus. It has to be something else. They got the Carolina Butcher. What's that? That's not that big, though. It's not big enough. The Carnifex. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that species. Let me bring it over here so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. It's a cool prehistoric crocodile, but it was able to get up on its hind legs like this, but it didn't approach the size. As you can see, here's it with a human for scale of about how big it was. Even Postosuchus wasn't nearly that big, but these are the crocodilians that could stand up like dinosaurs. These are the ones that could move bipedally. And there were quite a few of them. They ruled the early Triassic, right? They were like before the dinosaurs took over in the Mesozoic. The first, I want to say about the first fifth of the Mesozoic era was the dominant carnivores were these guys. And they were totally badass. and huge, absolutely huge, but nowhere near what Katrina has presented us here. And this is supposed to be a Dinosuchus anyway, which lived much later and was actually an alligatoroid. It wasn't a crocodile. It was a crocodilian to the extent that all under that clade, but it goes into the clade with alligators and caiman. It was huge, though.
The formidable carnivore lived in the coastal quagmires and swampy areas of North America. It wasn't a dinosaur, though, and it wasn't a crocodile either. Dinosuchus was a prehistoric alligator. It could
Alligatoroid, but yeah, okay.
grow 30 feet long, and it weighed around 7 tons. It was about as heavy as an elephant, and it also happened to be the largest predator in its ecosystem that we know about.
It was about as heavy as a T-Rex, too.
Dinosuchus hunted dinosaurs for sport, snapping its jaws.
Probably not for sport. Crocodilians don't generally hunt for sport. They hunt for food. Now, they get into a feeding frenzy, and even they may eat more than they need. They may consume more of the kill than they need because they want to get it before all the other competition, other crocs and stuff move in. But yeah, for the most part, they're not doing it for sport. I've never heard of anyone doing or not anyone, any crocodile has ever been documented to kill for sport.
On duckbills and horned dinosaurs, or really anything that found its way into its marshy domain. The first fossils of this creature were found in Montana in 1909 by William Jacob Holland, but only a few bones were uncovered.
It's important to remember, too, that during the Mesozoic, the late Mesozoic anyway, that you started to see this divide where crocodiles were in the southern continents and alligators were in the northern continents. And alligatoroids generally have a higher tolerance for colder temperatures. There aren't very many alligatoroids that still live in that cooler climate, but the modern alligators, both Chinese and North American or American alligators, are the northernmost crocodilians that can survive the coolest temperatures.
So there wasn't enough to paint a definitive picture of what this thing really looked like. Not until 1954 did scientists piece together the ancient reptile using its few bones and filling the missing gaps with Cuban crocodile bones. In the years that
So the Cuban crocodile is an odd duck. They are it's a crocoduck. No, it's an odd duck because they are the most terrestrial of modern crocodilians. That means they spend the most time on land, and they'll actually hunt on land too, like more akin to the way that like monitor lizards, like Komodo dragons, hunt than other crocodiles. They will do that. They'll ambush hunt from the grass instead of from the water. And they will attack in mobs. Not necessarily a pack hunting, but mob hunting, which is what a lot of the dinosaurs were thought to have done too, that were pack hunters. It was more likely that they were mob hunters that were just swarming a prey item because it was weak, and they were all going to take advantage of the weakness to take it down and consume it. Now, the Cuban crocodile, because it's not always dragging anyway. I don't say it's not dragging because they can still drag in things into the water and death roll them. Because it's not dragging things into the water to drown it. So the peg-like teeth that you see in other crocodilians, that means that they're cone-shaped and pointed to grab and pull, and they actually have a little bit of serration on their teeth to help them cut meat instead, because they're bleeding their prey out instead of drowning it.
Since then, paleontologists have found hundreds of bones scattered across 10 states. We now know there were 3 different species of Dinosuchus, and each one was more terrifying than the last. What this meant for dinosaurs of prehistoric North America was that swamps were a bad place to go. Herbivores and smaller, more defenseless dinosaurs would have been easy pickings in the humid and wet realm of Dinosuchus. And while it likely didn't...
So for a lot of dinosaurs it may have been, but I mean, there were also dinosaurs that would have just been like what you see, how elephants and rhinos and hippos deal with crocodiles in Africa today. It was just a scaled up version. These guys, even though they were huge, were not going to try to tackle like a sauropod or an adult ceratopsian. They could maybe shoot for the juveniles, but that's going to be about it.
Hunt carnivorous dinosaurs like the Tyrannosaurus rex, It's tough to say who would have won in a battle if it came down to a toothy fight. Who do you think would win? Let me know in the comments below. And now for...
I think the Tyrannosaurus Rex would win as long as it wasn't in the water. My opinion. Because it's more mobile and has more powerful jaws.
Number 9. But first, it's shout-out time. I want to give a big thank you to Jorge Gonzalez Larramendi for the super thanks. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate your support.
Super thanks for your misinformation.
If you are new here, be sure to subscribe to join the family. We've got lots of videos coming up. Number 9. The killer tadpole. Scientists recently revealed a killer tadpole that terrorized the planet long before the age of the dinosaurs. Scientists pieced together the discovered fragments of an ancient skull to reconstruct the face of a monstrous creature that lived 330 million years ago.
Okay, how is this the biggest enemy of a dinosaur when it lived way before the dinosaurs?
It was like a bizarre mix between a crocodile and an oversized tadpole. The extinct species is named Crassigyrinus scoticus, and scientists have known about its existence for about a decade. However, the primordial carnivore doesn't have many fossils in the record. The few fossils that have been found are in poor condition, making it tough to learn more about the animal's appearance. But by using computed tomography scans and 3D visualization technology, researchers were able to create a working picture of the beast. We now know that C. scoticus was a tetrapod, meaning it walked on 4 limbs. It was also related to the first animals that moved out of the ocean and onto land. Its earlier ancestors would have had...
So it's like a... you would want to call it like an amphibian, maybe? It's from 330 million years ago, right? That's when we had a lot of transition between land and water, and this was one of the giant-headed amphibians of the day, and it was really cool. It's a stem tetrapod. I'm here for it.
Had 4 flippers instead of legs, but it wasn't entirely a land animal either. It could still swim and favored a life in the swamps and wetlands of Scotland. The killer tadpole only grew to be about 10 feet long.
Crassigyrinus had a streamlined body of up to 2 meters. Yeah, it was not 10 feet long. Not at all. I don't know where that comes from. I did the types. I think we only have the hollow type specimen on this. So where they're getting these sizes from, I can't even begin to tell you.
That might not seem like much, but Laura Porro from Developmental Biology at University College London says it was huge for its time. Laura also says it would have behaved just like modern-day crocodiles. It likely lurked in the swamp just below the surface before ambushing its prey.
Hi guys! Excuse the brief interruption, but I just wanted to let you all know.
So that's what Katrina looks like, who's giving us all this bad information. But yeah, when it showed it as an ambush predator, when you think of an ambush predator from the water, generally it's ambushing animals and prey on land. So just to keep that in mind.
That we are now on Spotify. Origins Explained is now available on the free Spotify app and Spotify.com. So you have your teacher, your neighbor, you get it. See you there.
Number 8. The prehistoric badger. There was once a prehistoric badger on the planet that used to eat dinosaurs for breakfast.
It wasn't a badger. It was not a badger.
Yep, you heard that right. Paleontologists recently dug up some new specimens of the mammal from prehistoric China. The creature was so big and so vicious, it likely had a diet consisting primarily of young dinosaurs. It's called Repenomamus giganticus, and it was the size of a large dog. It measured over 3 feet long, and it was absolutely ferocious. Yao Minghu from the American Museum of Natural History says it looked a lot like the badgers of today, only it was as big as the meanest German Shepherd you've ever seen. And it lived 130 million years ago in northern China. The newly discovered fossil has impressed researchers because the skull is double the size of its closest relative, Repenomamus robustus. The sheer size of this creature's skull shocked researchers. It's totally changing the acceptance.
And these are very, very basal mammals, right? They're not related to any modern carnivore, and so they're not actually related to badgers. So calling it a prehistoric badger is fine, but it's just as long as it's understood that it's not a badger or mustelid. Mustelids were not around during this time period. This is a very basal, but it was really at the time the largest carnivorous mammal, and it is unexpected to find something that's so large because of the notion that mammals were sort of repressed due to the dinosaurs, right? But this guy was, it was as big as a raccoon. It was a pretty large creature, reaching like 30 pounds. That's about 15 kilograms for my UK friends out there. No, HiveScience is not on Spotify. Should I be on Spotify? I thought about putting just CrypticCorner on Spotify, but I haven't decided yet. I'm trying to do more with CrypticCorner as a standalone podcast segment as well. Just putting it out there and seeing how the market approaches it. But yeah, the closest that this creature gets to modern mustelids is that they're therian mammals. That's it.
That idea of mammals during the Mesozoic era. Up until recently, scientists believed mammals were small during the age of the dinosaurs. But what we have here,
relatively speaking, yes, they were small. And you're going to say this is a wolf size. I don't think so. I think a 30-pound wolf is not a healthy wolf.
It's something like a prehistoric wolf that was big enough to eat dinosaurs. It obviously wasn't going to...
Maybe like a prehistoric coyote or a prehistoric jackal, but not a prehistoric wolf. It would need to be about twice as big as it was to compete on that with that niche.
Eat a titanosaur, but baby dinos were certainly on the menu. Our Giganticus's jaw length was about equal to that of a fox, but the way it devoured its prey was brutal. The articulation of the bones suggests that the prehistoric badger preferred to dismember its victims rather than killing them on the spot. It was likely able to rip apart its prey limb from limb.
And it was very likely spent a lot of time scavenging too, because the nature of its bite, like the jaw, is durophagus. Pretty cool stuff. And plantar grade feet also indicate that it wasn't necessarily putting on a whole lot of hustle, not long distance running like a wolf. So the wolf comparison just falls apart.
Swallowing huge chunks of meat. So this cruel badger literally ate its victims, one arm at a time. Number 7, Cretoxyrhina. One of the most famous prehistoric sharks is Cretoxyrhina. The first fossils of this creature were discovered in 1843 by Swiss scientist Louis Agassiz. Then, 50 years later, another set of bones was discovered in Kansas by paleontologist Charles H. Sternberg. Scientists...
See, those are that back there that we were just looking at. These on the left here, these are what fossilized shark vertebrae look like. So check that out. If you see that in any rocks in your area, that's a shark. That's a shark that died there.
Bones was discovered in Kansas by paleontologist Charles H. Sternberg. Scientists have found hundreds of teeth, a piece of a spinal column, and enough remains that we have an excellent idea of how the prehistoric shark behaved. We know Cretoxyrhina could hold its own against the most fearsome marine predators of the ancient world. It was roughly 25 feet long and weighed between 1,000 and 2,000 pounds. And marine monsters like pliosaurs and mosasaurs likely would have steered clear of Cretoxyrhina. And those were animals that could easily eat any dinosaur silly enough to step foot in the ocean.
But dinosaurs didn't really swim in a marine environment, so unless they were scavenging on the remains of dead dinosaurs, or perhaps found some dinosaur in the surf, I suppose, I don't see these guys being a big threat to dinosaurs. Why is this listed as one of the biggest enemies of dinosaurs?
Cretoxyrhina lived during the Cretaceous period, between 100 and 80 million years ago. It wouldn't have been easy for the prehistoric shark to hunt land dinosaurs, seeing as it couldn't survive out of the water. But it did feast on marine reptiles. One particular specimen...
That was Megalodon. It keeps showing, too. This species didn't live during the time where there were ancient whales, like what it keeps showing.
Was recently discovered with the undigested remains of Zifactinus, a huge prehistoric fish, and its guts. This just goes to show how formidable the shark really was. Scientists believe it also preyed on bigger marine reptiles like Tylosaurus. So, to put things simply, Pretoxorhina was a killer of water dinosaurs.
Well, so Tylosaurs aren't dinosaurs. Tylosaurs are come in a variety of sizes too, and there would have been, Tylosaurs that were seal-sized or even dolphin-sized that these guys could have eaten for sure. This is a sand tiger shark on the screen right now.
So, for a shark you've probably never heard of, it was quite a fearsome beast. What's your favorite shark? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe while you're at it. Number 6.
I like the great hammerhead. Probably is my favorite shark, I would say. Like if I wanted to, if I was ever given an option to swim with these species of shark, it'd probably be the great hammerhead.
Dino worms. If there was one true enemy of the dinosaurs, it was most likely pests. Bugs and worms were far more damaging to dinosaurs than mammals, sharks, or crocodiles. Parasites.
But not earthworms like it had on the screen. No. Parasitic worms.
In particular, were a huge issue for carnivores. In 2006, scientists found evidence of intestinal parasites in a piece of dinosaur dung from the early Cretaceous. Fossilized dung is known as a coprolite, and this one was found in Belgium at the bottom of a coal shaft. It was the same coal shaft where paleontologists found 30 iguanodon skeletons in the 19th century.
Hell yeah, I love iguanodons. Iguanodons are cool, and they had parasites.
Inside the coprolite were traces of helminth worms. These are parasites that are very similar to ones that infect animals today. It looks like parasites haven't changed much in the past 125 million years. But it's still not clear how worms affected dinosaurs. Could one of these prehistoric beasts have gotten a tapeworm that grew to be 200 feet long? Well, that's the question scientists are trying to answer.
So tapeworms, I mean, they do get huge. They really do. But yeah, dinosaurs, we're finding out a lot about the pathologies of dinosaurs and some of the parasites and things that they dealt with. We have amber deposits with ticks in the dinosaur feathers. We have, again, coprolites, like they just mentioned, where we have different examples of intestinal parasites. And then we're going to talk about the Tyrannosaurus face here.
Discovered the skull of a tyrannosaur whose lower jaw was perforated with holes. The holes were inconsistent to what you'd expect to see from a bite. It didn't look like they were made during a fight with another dinosaur. Instead, the scientists argued the holes were made by microorganisms. Try to picture worms eating a rotten apple, only these worms were eating a tyrannosaur's jaws instead. We still don't know the full truth about dinosaurs and worms, but the evidence does suggest even the fiercest carnivore suffered from nasty parasitic infections. Number 5.
So, I think that's really cool that we found out about dinosaurs having that. And that coverage wasn't bad. Katrina did a good job there of breaking that down. I'm not going to dock any points from her for that one. From what we know about parasites and dinosaurs, yes, I think they probably suffered a great deal from parasites like animals today do.
Tropheus. When Tanystropheus was discovered in the early 1800s, it was mistaken for a flying reptile because its skeleton was so bizarre.
And good morning, Dr. Tapioca Weasel. Glad you could join us. This is one I was complaining to Mark and Doc Dino about last night, that they're going to call the Tanystropheus the biggest enemy of the dinosaur. The dinosaurs. I don't know what Tanystropheus could have done to be an enemy of the dinosaurs. It hung out like near the shores and ate fish. Had a really long neck. It was not adapted to consume or to compete with dinosaurs.
Paleontologists didn't know what to think of the monster, but it had an extraordinarily long neck that would put a giraffe to shame. Its remains have been found in Europe, China, and the Middle East, and it lived during the Triassic period, roughly 240 million years.
The time of weird reptiles. Again, we talked about this at the beginning of the segment when we were going over crocodilians. In the Triassic, when crocodilians ruled the world, because they always say when dinosaurs ruled the world, but beginning of the Mesozoic, crocodilians ruled the world, if that's how we're saying it. But there were all sorts of bizarre reptiles trying out different niches and poking their noses into different ecologies to see how they could sustain. We had these weird seal-like reptiles with wide mouths that scraped plant matter from rocks, like algae from rocks. We had a sloth-like tree reptile that had long claws and a prehensile tail. But then, of course, we have good old Tanystropheus with its giant neck and semi-aquatic adaptations.
Years ago, however, it wasn't a flying reptile. Tanystropheus was an aquatic reptile whose neck was twice as long as its body. The aquatic monster likely lurked around on the shoreline, waiting at the bottom of the water so it could easily surprise its prey. With its long neck, it was able to...
Those models looked more like like early plesiosaurs, like ancestors of plesiosaurs, than it did. What's the ancestor of plesiosaur I'm thinking of? Early plesiosaurs. I don't want to speak out of turn, so early plesiosaur. Sorry, just take just a second. I should have this pulled up, but I never know what they're gonna pop up with. I try to, yeah, like a nothosaur. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I couldn't remember what it was, but yeah, I thought those looked more like nothosaurs. You tell me what you think, though. The ones that were shown swimming. I think it looked more like one of these than a Tanystropheus. But we'll look at more images of Tanystropheus as we move through here. So
hide its body in the sand with its neck stuck up vertically and its head near the surface where it could easily snag some food. Inside the creature's guts, paleontologists have found scales and squid hooks. According to researchers, Tanystropheus was likely a piscivore, meaning it only fed on fish, and of course squid. It was alive during the earliest stages of dinosaur evolution. Dinosaurs began to evolve about
what the hell kind of evolution was that?
Fed on fish, and of course squid. It was alive during the earliest stages of dinosaur.
Did that lizard just turn into a glyptodon and then Andrewsarchus?
Dinosaurs began to
lizard, glyptodont, Andrewsarchus? No.
Evolved about 245 million years ago, so there was definitely some overlap. It's unlikely that Tanystropheus feasted on any dinosaurs, but it was still a scary creature that guarded the coastlines and ate whatever fish and squid it could.
So why is it the biggest enemy of the dinosaurs then? Why did you put it in a video called Biggest Enemies of the Dinosaurs if it couldn't even impact the dinosaurs in any way?
Number 4.
Well, I shouldn't say in any way. Ecologically, it could impact them. I mean, competing with, because it does fill a niche presumably similar to birds. So, I mean, it could compete with birds, but birds weren't around in the Triassic, so it was filling its niche. Morning, Carol. Morning,
Researchers
Tsunami.
believe they have just found evidence of an ancient crocodile species that had a hankering for dinosaur meat. The animal wasn't a crocodile at all, but rather a crocodiliform, an extinct species that lived during the Mesozoic era. They were very similar to crocodiles, but they also had some major differences. Most were carnivores, but a handful of them were herbivores. Some were even what we call durophagores, meaning they primarily
Durophagus. Yeah, they were.
ate hard-shelled animals. But there was one member of the crocodiliform family that had a diet rarer than the rest. It was called Ogorsuchus, and it may have sustained itself on a strict diet of dinosaurs. Researchers have always known there were crocodiliforms big enough to be enemies to the dinosaurs, but they never had any concrete proof that it happened. Now, after all these years of speculation, scientists finally found evidence in the Winton Formation in Australia. They discovered the partial remains of an ornithopod inside the preserved stomach of a crocodile.
And now, Ogorsuchus was a sebecid, which is pretty cool. The cool thing about sebecids is that they kind of transcend the Mesozoic. They said, oh, they lived during the Mesozoic, but sebecids as a clade, they transcend that. They actually move into the Paleogene with several members rising to prominence in South America, where they ruled They ruled the world, as we like to say, for for a few million years. Ruled the world because they lived in an isolated population in South America. But that's the way we started this video, because they lived in the Americas. It ruled the world.
Crocodiliform. This has been huge because it offers the first physical proof that crocodiliforms couldn't get enough of that sweet dinosaur meat. But
So it had one sauropod in its belly.
it looks like the prehistoric croc died shortly after its meal. The dinosaur in its belly didn't have enough time to be dissolved by the creature's stomach acids.
And Ogresuchus didn't look like that either.
The crocodiliform has since been named Confractosuchus saurochtonus, that's as good as it's gonna get, which means a broken dinosaur eater in English. This monster was about 7 feet long and may have been a juvenile, likely still growing when it died.
Did we
On its
switch-
last dinosaur
did we
may have
switch
been a giant eater
dinosaurs?
in English? This monster was about, which
When did we
means
s-
broken dinosaur
She didn't give-
acids. The crocodiliform has since been named
I thought we were talking about Ogresuchus. Did we switch it up? And this, are we not talking about Ogresuchus anymore? We're talking about Confractosuchus. Let me see. They're not synonyms, are they? Did you just switch? Confractosuchus is not. Is not Ogresuchus. So you're talking about two different dinosaurs here, and you didn't give, and they're both under the same number. Because you talk, yeah, you had Ogresuchus right here, and then right after Tanystropheus, and you didn't give us another number, and switched right over to Confractosuchus. They're not the same. They're not the same animal, and they didn't live in the same formation, I don't think, did they? Hold on, I'm looking at the paleoecology. No, not that. Wrong window. Switch that back out. No, there's nothing about Ogresuchus. She's just conflating two clades.
Saurochtonus, that's as good as it's gonna get, which means a broken dinosaur eater in English. This monster was about 7 feet long and may have been a juvenile, likely still growing when it died on its last dinosaur. Number 3,
So yeah, they switched it right into another species of crocodile or crocodilian, but not a sebecid. Not a sebecid, a Eusuchia, which is different. Sebecids are... Well, I guess Eusuchia does contain sebecids. Trying to keep up with this stuff. Let me see here. So, sebecids separate from... Yeah, I'm just annoyed that they put to both like they were the same species.
Constrictor. Snakes are notoriously difficult to find in the fossil record.
Hey,
There's
Al.
almost no evidence of a snake that lived during the days of the dinosaurs. There were definitely snakes.
Confuciusuchus sauerkrautinus. Is that your favorite crocodilian, Sumami?
After the asteroid that killed the dinos, but even snakes that lived a few million years ago have left almost nothing behind for scientists to find. Titanoboa, believed to be the biggest snake that ever existed, is only known because
Is way after the dinosaurs too, so it cannot be the biggest enemy of the dinosaurs. There were no confirmed snakes, as far as I know, from the Mesozoic at all.
of some random vertebrae discovered in a Colombian coal mine. Based on the fossils in the coal mine, we know Titanoboa was truly giant. Estimates place the snake at 47 feet long, and it's a
Ridiculously high estimates do, yeah, but I digress. It did not live with the dinosaurs, so it doesn't belong on this list at all. So I'm not even going to argue with your bad
supposedly
nations
weighed
here.
2,500 pounds. It lived during the Paleocene epoch, likely between 60 and 58 million years ago.
Yeah.
And researchers think it only evolved in the years following the extinction of non-avian dinosaurs. After Titanoboa came the Eoconstrictor. It was very similar but lived sometime during the Eocene epoch, 56 to 33
And it also did not live alongside non-avian dinosaurs and could not have been one of the biggest enemies of the dinosaurs.
million years ago. Even though it lived more recently than Titanoboa, only a handful of Eoconstrictor specimens have been found in Germany's Messel pit. These snakes weren't all that big either, measuring no more than 6 feet. Titanoboa could have easily eaten a huge variety of dinosaurs. They likely wouldn't have fought the giants like Giganotosaurus, but most dinosaurs would have been easy prey because of the scarce.
And I did misspeak. There were snakes in during the Mesozoic, but they were small. They weren't anywhere approaching the size of Titanoboa. Just to clarify. Sorry for the misspeak there. There were like a half a dozen species of snakes from the Cretaceous. I just pulled it up here. So I was like, wait a minute. I know that the Nagesh was from the Cretaceous, but Nagesh has some funny little hind limbs. So I don't know if it counts as a snake if it has legs, huh?
Fossils of snakes, it's possible there may have been other giant snakes that lived alongside dinosaurs. We just haven't found proof of them yet. Number 2, the bird mimic. Technically, Ornithomimus was a dinosaur, but to the naked
Right. It was a dinosaur. So how's it the biggest enemies of dinosaurs? And it's an Ornithomimus. It's not gonna.
eye,
What's it gonna
really
do?
a prehistoric ostrich. Ornithomimus means bird mimic because these dinos looked way more like birds than what you would expect a dinosaur to look like.
Birds are dinosaurs. What a bird looks like is what I expect a dinosaur to look like. Birds are dinosaurs. I'm not gonna freaking keep repeating that, but to say bird-like dinosaur is just to me it's like dinosaur, but when it comes to anyway, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna let it play because I'm frustrated and having a.
These were freakish bird-like beings that expanded
Freakish.
during the late Cretaceous
Why are they freakish? You are so
from
weird.
Eurasia and North America. Ornithomimus had a small head, a fat torso, long legs, and dangling arms. Just imagine an ostrich with arms, and you'll have a pretty good idea of what this thing looked
And a tail and teeth.
like. But even with those floppy arms, it could run at a top speed of roughly 30 miles per hour. It was also the victim of some serious prejudice in the dinosaur kingdom. All physical evidence points to Ornithomimus being a plant eater. The reason it could run so fast
Well,
is that
ornithomimids, they'd eat plants, but it's also considered that it would have eaten small insects and vertebrates, invertebrates too, if they could, anything could get in its mouth. But that's what we call herbivores today will do that too. Cows and deer and sheep, they'll snack on a lizard if they can catch
it
it.
needed to escape tyrannosaurs and raptors that were trying to pluck out its feathers and eat it. The bird mimic is a little strange because it's not even an ancestor of modern birds. Our current birds descended from small feathered raptors, not from the
Maniraptorans is the proper group name.
dinosaur that physically looked like a bird. What do you think of this creature? Let me know in the comments. Number 1, the dragon. Dinosaurs had a great enemy in the sky. Pterosaurs weren't dinosaurs. They were more like prehistoric dragons. While dinos were busy stomping around on the land, and while crocodiliforms were ruling the swamps, dragons ruled the skies. In a recent shocking
They're not dragons, of course. They're pterosaurs, but go off.
discovery, scientists found the remains of a pterodactyl with a wingspan about the size of an F-16 fighter jet. The pterodactyl
Where?
was discovered was killed in the prime of its life, and its fossils were found in a phosphate mine in northern Morocco. The massive beast, a flying nightmare by every definition, was 30 feet long and weighed 440
Okay.
pounds. But how could a reptile grow so huge and still be able to fly?
I don't think pterodactyls got that big. Some pterosaurs did, but not pterodactyls.
Scientists say it's because pterosaurs evolved lightweight skeletons. Their bones were reduced to nothing
True.
more than hollow tubes with walls about as thin as paper. Inside the Moroccan mines, a total of 200 specimens were recovered. There was the giant dragon the size of a fighter jet, and 6 other species from 3 distinct families. Most pterosaurs likely hunted fish.
I believe it was a pterosaur, but you said it was a pterodactyl that was that big. I want to know what species of pterodactyl you're talking about. Pterodactyls did not get the size of fighter jets.
Just like modern birds, but there may have been a few who were a little more interested in hunting small land dinosaurs. And since they were the only things of this...
Yeah, why wouldn't you just focus on Quetzalcoatlus here? Because Quetzalcoatlus literally walked around feeding on baby dinosaurs if you could catch them. It's a thing.
Guy, they didn't have much competition to worry about. Thanks for watching. Who do you think would win in a fight, a T-Rex or a Dinosuchus? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye.
Bye, Katrina. What the heck was that? There was a dinosaur on the list. There was, let's go through and see who we had. We had Dinosuchus, and we had, I don't know, William Jacob Holland. I don't know what that is. Cuban croc bones. Yeah, that much of the video was dedicated to... This much of the video was dedicated to Dinosuchus, though. They put a lot of effort into that. Then we had the prehistoric tadpole, which lived way, way before the dinosaurs. And then we have... What do we have after that? We had the... Yeah, still going on about that, saying it's the size of a wolf. The ancient mammal. And then we had... That's sharks. Yeah, so... some of these creatures did live with dinosaurs. Some of them did not. Yeah. But that's neither here nor there, because out of all the ones that are listed, only a couple of them could have had interactions with dinosaurs in real time. And the ones that did, some of the ones that they listed off were dinosaurs. So some of them lived before, some of them lived after. Not well thought out. Some of most of the information here was pretty accurate in comparison to what we've seen before on this segment. So I'll give her props for that. And there were some segments that were freaking gold, but for the most part, rubbish, absolute rubbish. All right. So thank you for sticking with me through this. Yet again, another delve into some SciFails, this time from Origins Explained with Katrina. Hope you enjoyed the segment. Please remember to be kind, take care, and we will see you next time.
I get knocked down, but I